This is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Today we have a juice comparison. So I'm going to be comparing the Hrrem slow juicer model HU100 with the Lequip big mouth juicer. This is Lequip 215 XL juicer. So both these juicers, actually they look fairly similar. They're both upright juicers. They have a small footprint, so that's the footprint on this juicer, and this is the footprint on this juicer. So they both take up little counter space. But that's where their similarities end. They're basically two very different juicers on the inside. So this one runs at approximately 10,000 RPMs. That's RPM stands for revolutions per minute, and that's how fast the juicer spins around. For the car geeks out there, if you have a car, you have a tachometer that shows the RPMs of the engine and how fast the engine's spinning around. So RPMs simply state how fast the juicer spins. So on this juicer, this motor spins at around 10,000 RPMs. And what happens is that actually makes this basket spin around 10,000 times per minute. So that's spinning incredibly fast. And how this juicer works is that there's these little teeth, much like a grater that you would grate your carrots up for your salad. As you put produce into this juicer, these little blades basically grates up your produce. And when it grates, it basically spins off the grates into the pulp catch container. And the juice is actually separated also, spins through this screen and comes out of the front of the juicer. So this is called the Centripetal Ejection style juicer. Actually, once the juice is flung at it, spins out in this bowl, which then comes out this spout. It's fairly easy to take apart, just a few parts to clean. Now this style juicer is called the Centripetal Ejection. And you know, centripetal ejection juicers are falsely claimed that they actually heat up your juice. I need to tell everybody right now, these juicers do not heat your juice. That's a big misnomer. I have an article on my website, DiscountJuicers.com, where I actually do testing, and I test the temperature, and actually this juicer made the juicer colder than other kinds of juicers. So, you know, it's a misnomer that it heats your juice, but it's not a misnomer, and it is true that this juicer will what's called oxidize your juice more. So it makes juice basically of a lower quality than this style juice over here. The reason for that is that because this is spinning at so fast, 10,000 RPMs, spinning so fast as you're juicing, more oxygen is being put in contact with that juice, and the oxygen in contact with the juice causes oxidation. So that's what happens when you cut open an apple and then you forget to eat it, you leave it on your counter, the apple starts to turn brown. It basically, oxygen is oxidating the apple and turning it brown, which, you know, lowers the nutrient quality basically. So let's take this one over here. This is the Hrrem slow juicer, and you know, while it looks similar, it's both upright. This is much different on the inside. This is what's called a single auger juicer, and this juicer runs at approximately 80 RPM, so 80 revolutions per minute. So that's, you know, much slower than 10,000 next door. So let's go ahead and take this apart and we'll show you the differences. So this one, instead of a blade that basically shreds up and flings out the shreds and basically puts the juice out the front, this works entirely different. We'll take out the body of this machine here. And there's no blades in this. This is not going to cut your fingers or anything. Basically what this is just an auger. So what you do is, when you put the produce in here, this not even a blade, this auger comes around and chunks off a piece of it. And then that piece kind of gets in here, and as the auger turns and turns, that piece of produce is literally smushed or crushed into a smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller space until literally this juicer is squeezing the juice out of the produce. So, you know, it's not grating it up and it's running at a very low RPM. And as this process goes on, it's in between this screen. So as it's being squeezed, the juice is being squeezed. The juice comes through all these little holes in the screen. And that's how this juicer makes the juice. It literally squeezes the juice out of the produce. And then it has this contraption on here, and actually some people call these rubber blades, but these are actually silicone wiping blades. So much like the windshield wipers on your car keeps your windshield clean when it's raining, this screen comes around and these silicone wiping blades come around and keep the screen clean on the juicer so that the screen doesn't get clogged and you'll get the highest yield. So after the pulp and the produce is juiced, you know, the juice will come out this side. So the juice basically comes out through the screen and then comes out this spout here into your collection cup. And then you have another collection cup on this side. And on this side, this is all the pulp comes out. On this side right here. And let's see, we'll take this juicer apart here. So there's, once again, only a few parts to clean on this juicer as well. If I had to say which juicer is easier to clean, I'd definitely give the winner on the cleaning issue to this juicer, because it's much less parts to clean and less passageways to clean, so that's easier. And I always recommend using a stiff nylon dish brush or vegetable brush to clean both juicers. That will make cleaning much easier. Although with the Hrrem juicer, you do get a small toothbrush style cleaner that's pretty much good for the screen. So back to this housing. This is the main body housing. The pulp comes out here, the juice comes out here. And on the bottom of the housing here, we have on a flap, it's basically a rubber, or another silicone piece, I'm sorry, a silicone flap that actually keeps the pulp inside the machine to get it the driest before it allows it to come out. So there's some pressure here. And basically this allows the pulp to come out fairly dry, and so you're going to get a higher yield. So each of these juicers have their pros and cons. Definitely the Hrrem juicer is definitely better. The squeezing action is more effective on juicing things like leafy greens. So I'll have a tree kale tree here behind me. We could just pull out one of these leaves. And so this leaf, is better juiced by literally taking it and squeezing it out and squeezing the juice out. Whereas the same thing, if you took this leaf and took it to a carrot grater, that you'd grate your carrots on for your salad, and we tried to grate this, right? We wouldn't get a lot of juice, but if we squeeze this, we'd get more juice. So each juicer works a little bit differently, and each juicer is better for certain produce than others. So the reason why, and the other thing is, that's a big difference, is the feed chute size. So you can see, this has a large 3-inch diameter feed chute, so you could put, literally whole apples in there, whole pears, and other things, 3 carrots at a time. Whereas on this juicer, the Hrrem juicer, it has a smaller feed chute. It's a crescent shape, probably, less than half the size. So, there's pros and cons to different feed chute sizes. The pro and the advantage is feeding things faster. The con is, maybe there's going to be a little bit less yield because there's going to be less blade contact time of that produce on the blade. So that being said, different types of produce is going to be differently juiced. So this juicer on this side is definitely good for carrots, good for apples, good for pears, and, beets, ginger, and other things that are hard. Or the same token, this juicer on this side is definitely much better for things like your leafy greens. And while it will also juice carrots and things like that, definitely like this juicer more for the leafy greens if you want to do a mixture. So if you took, a similar amount of, carrots and leafy greens and both juicers, you're probably going to yield about the same, because the carrots are going to probably yield a little bit more on this juicer. The leafy greens not as much, but this juicer is going to make up for the, maybe a little bit less yield on the carrots with more yield on the leafy greens. So you always want to match your juicing style with the juicer to meet that need. So I have many juicers here on YouTube you could check out about, different juicers and juicing different things. And if you need to get out of the kitchen fast and you need to juice quickly, well, you can't beat this one. It runs it so much faster for an RPM. This one runs a lot slower. If you want to talk about nutrient quality, or how much nutrient is in the juice, or nutrition in the juice, given the same carrot, for example, this one, because it runs at a lower RPM, which we talked about earlier, will give you a higher nutrient quality than this one. So those are some of the basics between the Lequip 215XL and the Hrrem HU100 juicer today that I'll be showing you. Hope you've learned a little bit more about juicing and which juicer is best for you. And in most cases, I recommend one of these 2 style juicers for people that are getting into juicing. And the thing I want to mention that I didn't mention earlier is that the Hrrem HU100 slow juicer is the same as the Omega VRT 330 juicer. And at Discount Juicers, we recommend the VRT 330 juicer over the Hrrem juicer. They're basically the same machine. I have other videos that may appear on YouTube on the related videos column that you might want to check out. There's also an informative article I wrote on my website, discountjuicers.com/verticalaugers.html, that specifically explain the differences on a side-by-side comparison. And the Omega is actually $10 less expensive and has the same 10-year warranty. So actually both these machines, also talking about that, have 10-year warranties, which is definitely really important when you're buying a juicer. I see a juicer as an investment. And it's an investment in the most important thing you have in the world. And that's your health, because without your health, you don't have anything. So this is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers. for our YouTube visitors.